I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating, especially not in a million years. Jennifer and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5. At first, everything seemed fine, good job, nice house, friends, the usual. But somewhere around the second year, I started noticing the little things. She'd be short-tempered more often, snapping at me over nothing. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and she'd dismiss my concerns with that "I'm just busy" or "you're overthinking it" attitude. I brushed it off initially, telling myself maybe she was stressed at work or just tired. I didn't want to believe she could cheat. Not her. She's never been the type, or so I thought. But then came the signs that I couldn't ignore anymore. The late nights she'd claim were at some stressful work event, but I'd find her phone hidden under the pillow with messages from someone named Alex that she'd try to hide. Her behavior towards me shifted, too, less intimacy, more coldness, avoidance whenever I tried to get close. The sex life dropped off a cliff. She'd make excuses like "I'm too tired," "you're demanding," or "I don't feel like it." I was feeling more like a roommate than a husband. Still, I told myself maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she was just stressed or preoccupied with life. Then one night I got curious. I decided to check her phone. I know, trust and all that. But I was desperate. I'd been feeling like I was losing my wife, and honestly I was scared she was with someone else. I unlocked her phone when she was in the shower. That's when I saw the texts that shattered everything. She wasn't just talking to Alex about work or some stupid gossip. No, her messages were flirty, explicit even. They talked about meeting up, about sex, about finally being able to be together without hiding. My stomach sank. I don't even know how I managed to read through it all without passing out. I didn't confront her right away. I just stared at the screen, feeling numb. My mind raced. How could she do this to me? After all these years. I knew I had to confront her, but I needed to do it carefully. I wanted to catch her in the act, or at least get her to admit it. The next morning I waited until she left for work. I wanted to catch her red-handed or find more evidence. I went through her things, her emails, her phone, her social media. That's when I found the receipts, screenshots of their conversations, pictures of her in bed with some guy, her telling him she loved him. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I couldn't believe she had been sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face for months. And the worst part, she had the nerve to lie to my face about everything. She spat out all these ridiculous excuses when I finally confronted her, saying she was just lonely, or it was nothing, or it's not what it looks like. But I knew better. I saw the proof, and it was devastating. I felt betrayed, humiliated, furious. Still, I kept my calm. I needed to think this through. I wanted to make her pay for what she'd done. I just didn't know how yet. After I found all that evidence, I didn't say a word right away. Honestly, I was stunned. My mind was racing, trying to process everything. I sat in the living room, feeling this cold rage bubble up inside me. I kept thinking, how long has this been going on? Who is he? How many times? Did she ever even care about me during all this? The worst part was knowing she'd lied to my face so many times, that she'd gone out of her way to deceive me, to hide her phone, her messages, her secret meetings. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. When she finally came home that evening, I was already waiting in the living room. She looked at me like I was a stranger, her eyes darting, trying to gauge what I knew. I kept quiet at first, just stared at her, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. She tried to act normal, pretending everything was fine, brushing her hair back, making small talk like nothing was wrong. I could see the panic in her eyes, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reaction. I wanted to make her sweat, to see her try to lie her way out of this. Then I asked her outright, "Who is he, Jen? Who have you been cheating on me with?" Her face froze. She looked like she'd been caught in a trap. Her lips trembled a little before she started with the typical bullshit. "It's not what you think. I was just stressed. I needed someone to talk to. It's not sex, I swear. It's just flirty messages, that's all." She kept saying that over and over, trying to minimize it to make me believe it was nothing. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I could see the guilt all over her face, the way her hands trembled. I lost my temper then. I yelled at her, told her I saw everything, the pictures, the texts, the proof she'd been lying. She tried to deny it, but I interrupted her, telling her I knew she was screwing some guy named Mark, that I'd seen it with my own eyes. Her excuse was she was lonely, that she didn't mean for it to get this far. She even had the nerve to say she loved me, that she just got caught up in a moment of weakness. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but deep down I knew. It was all bullshit. She had been lying to my face for months. That night was the worst. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with that guy. I saw their messages, their photos. I couldn't wrap my head around how she could do this to me after everything we built, after all the vows we made. I felt betrayed, like I'd been stabbed in the back repeatedly. My stomach was twisted with anger, but also sadness. A strange, hollow feeling took over, almost like I'd lost a part of myself. I kept asking myself, did I miss the signs? Was I blind? Or did she just lie so well that I couldn't see it coming? I started questioning everything: our marriage, her feelings for me, whether I ever truly knew her at all. I was furious at her, but I was also heartbroken. The trust we'd built was shattered in an instant. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to decide what to do next. The pain was overwhelming, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. Something had to change. I couldn't stay in this marriage and pretend nothing had happened, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted to just walk away or fight for some kind of resolution. I was tired of feeling like a fool, but part of me still loved her. That's what makes this whole thing so complicated. How do you move on when your whole world is turned upside down? The next few days were a whirlwind. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat properly. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her with that guy Mark, or whatever his name was, smiling, touching, whatever they did. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, trying to find some way to rationalize it, but honestly, there was no rationalizing cheating. No matter what she said, that she was lonely, stressed, or didn't plan for it, it didn't change the fact she betrayed me. That realization made me so angry I could barely breathe. But I knew I had to think practically. I couldn't just lose my mind and toss her out without a plan. So I started formulating a plan, one I'd been thinking about since I found the messages. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I wanted her to feel what I felt: betrayal, humiliation, loss. I wanted her to understand that cheating isn't just a mistake, it's a choice, and it has consequences. I decided I'd catch her again, maybe get her to slip up, or at least confront her with undeniable proof in a way that she couldn't deny. I got some of her emails, saved her messages, and even installed a hidden app on her phone to monitor her location. I wanted to know exactly where she was when she was sneaking around. It was creeping me out how easy it was to stalk her without her noticing, but I told myself it was for my peace of mind. I needed to see just how deep this rabbit hole went. One night I followed her. She left the house, looking frantic, like she was trying to avoid being caught. I trailed her to a fancy hotel downtown. I watched her go in, her face tense, her heels clicking loudly on the pavement. I waited outside for a few minutes, feeling like I was in some bad movie. Then I called her from a blocked number, just loud enough for her to hear. I told her I knew she was cheating, that I had the evidence, and that I was done pretending. Her voice faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered and started with her usual lies. It's not what it looks like. You're overreacting. It's just sex, that's all. I didn't buy it. I told her I'd be waiting for her at home, and I hung up. I watched her come out of the hotel, her face flushed, and she hurried to a cab. That moment was like a punch to the stomach. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I felt so many things: rage, heartbreak, disgust. She had been lying to my face for months, and I'd been blind to it. That night I decided I'd had enough. I'd confront her once and for all, and I'd decide what to do after. The next few days I stayed quiet, gathering everything I needed. I wanted her to see I wasn't some naive fool anymore. I wanted her to realize I knew everything. But I also knew that I couldn't just storm in and accuse her without solid proof. I had to be strategic. I didn't want her to spin some bullshit story and manipulate me again. I decided I'd wait for her to leave work, then set a trap. I'd confront her in a way that made her realize I was serious, that this wasn't just a fling or a mistake. It was over, and I was done playing the fool. My plan was simple but cold. I'd catch her with the evidence, then give her a choice: come clean or I walk away forever. Honestly, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Part of me still loved her, but that love had been poisoned. The trust was gone, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump or pull back. The pain was unbearable, but I knew I had to do something, something that would make her see that I wasn't going to be played anymore. It was time to face the music and decide whether this marriage was worth saving or if I needed to cut my losses and start over. The day I decided to confront her, I felt like I was walking into a trap I set myself. I timed everything carefully, waiting until she was leaving work, then I followed her car to the same hotel she'd visited. I parked a few blocks away, watching her slip out of her office building around 4:30 p.m. She looked nervous, her face tight like she knew she was about to get caught. I was trembling with a mix of adrenaline and rage. I kept my distance, waiting for her to get into her car, then I followed her at a safe distance, making sure she didn't spot me. She drove straight to that hotel, then checked in alone. I watched from the shadows behind a nearby building. I felt sick when I saw her go inside. I had all the evidence I needed, but somehow seeing her there, so vulnerable and guilty, made everything hit harder. I was all set to confront her, but part of me hesitated. I kept thinking about all those years, all the moments I thought were real. Was any of it real? Or was I just a fool to believe she loved me? Finally, I stepped out of hiding and approached her hotel room door. I knocked loudly, then slipped a piece of paper under the door with a simple message. Open up. We need to talk. For a second, I thought she might run, but her footsteps approached the door. I heard her breathing, quick and shallow, then the lock clicked open. She looked surprised, guilty, and defiant all at once. Jason, she said, voice trembling. What are you doing here? I looked at her coldly, not giving her an inch. I came to see if you'd be honest with me. I know everything, Jennifer. I saw the messages, saw you with that guy. I followed you here. Her face paled. She tried to lie, but I cut her off. Save it. I don't want to hear your bullshit anymore. I have everything on my phone, screenshots, messages, pictures. You've been screwing around behind my back for months. She tried to deny it, saying, it's not what it looks like, but her voice cracked. I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about Mark, about her lying to my face, about her sneaking around. I said I wasn't going to be some idiot anymore, pretending everything was fine. I told her I wanted her out of my life if she wasn't willing to be honest. She broke down then, tears streaming down her face, saying she was sorry, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was just so unhappy. She begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. But I felt nothing but coldness inside. Maybe I loved her once, but now I just felt empty. The woman I married had become a stranger, a liar, a cheat, someone I couldn't recognize. I told her to pack her things and leave, that I didn't want to see her face again until she sorted herself out. She looked at me like I'd punched her in the stomach, pleading, crying, begging. But I didn't care anymore. She crossed a line I couldn't come back from. She had shattered the trust, and I wasn't going to rebuild it. I closed the door on her, and I knew that was the end of that chapter. That night, I sat alone in my house, staring at the walls, feeling a strange mixture of relief and devastation. Part of me wanted her to regret everything, to hurt like I hurt. Part of me wanted to fix it, to forgive her somehow. But I knew deep down that things would never be the same, that my world had been turned upside down beyond repair. I felt lost, betrayed, and exhausted. All I could do now was figure out what my next move was, whether to fight for closure or simply walk away from the wreckage of what used to be my marriage. The days that followed were a roller coaster I wasn't prepared for. After she left that night, I felt like I was walking around in a fog. My house was too quiet, too empty. I kept replaying everything. The betrayal, her lies, that hotel room. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was living someone else's nightmare. I'd never imagined I'd find myself in this position, confronting my wife about cheating. The shock, the anger, hell, the betrayal hit me harder than I thought it ever could. At first, I was furious. I wanted to call her, scream at her, tell her how much she'd screwed up. But I held back. I realized that doing that wouldn't fix anything. Instead, I took some time to think, to breathe, to get some perspective. I had to decide whether I could forgive her, whether I wanted to try and salvage this mess, or if I should just cut my losses and move on. Honestly, I was leaning heavily toward the latter. In the days that followed, I also started talking to friends and family. That was a huge help. The support, even if it was just listening, made me realize I wasn't alone in feeling like I'd been blindsided. I also started to reflect on the relationship itself, how things had been heading downhill for a while, how I'd ignored the signs because I was too comfortable, too trusting. That's when it hit me. I'd been naive. I'd given her the benefit of the doubt one too many times, and now I was paying the price. I also reached out to a lawyer. I needed to know my rights, what I could do if I decided to divorce. The legal stuff was overwhelming, dividing assets, visitation, alimony. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I was done with the whole circus. I didn't want to be the guy who just accepted betrayal, who stayed because of fear or comfort. I wanted to be the guy who took control of his life again, who decided what comes next. Meanwhile, Jennifer kept calling, sending "please talk to me" texts. Crying, apologizing. I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear it. Honestly, I was too hurt, too angry. I knew she was probably trying to manipulate me into forgiving her, but I wasn't ready. I needed time. I needed space. I needed to figure out if I even wanted her back or if I was better off walking away completely. By then, I'd made up my mind. I couldn't keep living in this chaos. I wasn't the same guy who once trusted her blindly. I was stronger now, even if it hurt like hell. I told myself that I'd get through this one way or another. I just had to stay focused, keep my head clear, and make the choice that was best for me. Whatever that was, I knew I wouldn't let her betrayal define me. I owed myself that much. In the end, I did what I never thought I'd have to do, ended it all. The marriage, the illusions I held onto, the trust I had blindly given her. It was brutal, and it hurt worse than I can put into words, but I knew I had no choice. Staying in a relationship built on lies and betrayal was just unhealthy. It was destructive. I didn't want my life to be a cycle of pain and deception anymore. I wanted something real, even if it meant starting over alone. I moved out of the house a few weeks later. It wasn't easy packing up memories, photos, everything that represented the life we'd shared. But as I boxed things up, I realized how much I'd been holding onto, hoping she'd change, wishing it wasn't true, pretending that everything was fine. That wish was gone now. What remained was clarity. The pain was still there, of course, but so was a sense of relief. It was over, and I had taken control. Since then, I've been working on rebuilding myself. Therapy helped not just to process the anger and betrayal, but to understand how I let myself get to this point. I learned that trusting blindly isn't always a virtue. Sometimes you need to protect yourself. I also learned that I can survive heartbreak and that I'm stronger than I ever thought I was. I still feel sadness sometimes, but it's overshadowed by a quiet determination to move forward. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs sooner, that ignoring red flags only made everything worse. But I also see that sometimes, no matter how much you want to believe in someone, they reveal who they really are in the harshest way possible. And when they do, you owe it to yourself to walk away, to protect your peace, your sanity, your future. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Trust is earned, not given blindly. And betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define you. You can pick up the pieces and rebuild, even if it takes time. You don't owe anyone forgiveness or second chances if they've shown you who they really are. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is walk away, learn from it, and never settle for less than you deserve. That's what I did, and I'm finally starting to find my way back to a better, stronger version of myself.